Good evening, everybody. My name is Jonathan Trop. Welcome to the July 10th, 2025 meeting of the EDIT Task Force. I'm delighted to see so many people, and we'll introduce them all in a moment. I call the meeting to order at 7:32 and would invite everybody to please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the
of the
flag
United
of the
States of
United States
America
of America
and to the
and to the
republic for
republic
which it
for
stands,
which it
one
stands,
nation,
one
under
nation,
God,
under God,
indivisible, with
indivisible,
liberty and
liberty
justice
and
for all.
justice for all.
Uh, Thank you. For roll call, um, in addition to myself, we have Shala Fleming, David Rosenberg, and Rick Bolton, all of the committee, which is a quorum. We are joined by uh, our counsel, Jim Cordone, by our clerk, Joanne Glasser-Ornstein, by technology director, Bill Chin, and by Samantha Miller, who is on the schedule for the town council to vote on tonight as a potential addition to EDIT. And I'm delighted, Samantha, to welcome you tonight as a guest. In addition, we are joined by three others who relate to an agenda item, and I think I will defer their introductions until we get to the agenda item, but I thank you all for joining us. First item on our agenda is correspondence. There has been no correspondence since our last meeting, with the exception of repeated emails from that Govern1 organization that have all the look and feel of spam to me, and I won't report further. Bill, I would ask you to invite any public comment.
Mr. Chairman, there are no members of the public in attendance at this time.
Thank you. Next item up is approval of the minutes of June 12th, 2025. I can't quite tell, but correct me. I think that what was circulated were minutes with some revisions in them. Is that correct? Some redlining. So I certainly would expect that
No, they weren't published that way.
Okay, so they're published as clean. Okay, so I'll invite a motion.
Motion to approve the minutes from our June 12th, 2025 meeting.
Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay. All members in attendance tonight were in attendance at that meeting, so we're all eligible to vote. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you. And so we reached the next item on our agenda, discussion with representatives of Trumbull SEPTA. And Shala, thank you very much for extending the invitation to our guests. I'll throw it to you to introduce them and set the groundwork.
Great, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Appreciate everyone for being here this evening, but particularly our three guests from Trumbull SEPTA. My understanding of the work that the group does is that they are working to support children with special needs and to ensure that they are getting what they need here in Trumbull. And so I'm going to ask you all to tell us a little bit more about the work you do specifically. But just so you know, Jenny, Sarah, and hi, Sarah, and Reggie, I hope I said your name correctly. We have been working to invite members of the community whose work feels aligned with ours to just have folks share and for us to think about ways that we can support each other, potentially partner. So we'd love for each of you to introduce yourselves to the group, talk a little bit about the work of Trumbull SEPTA, and then would love for you all to share if there are any ways that our committee can be supportive of the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Chala, and once again, thank you for reaching out and inviting us to be part of the committee here today, and also for being so accommodating with the schedule. So one, I was happy to know that there's an edit task force committee here in Trumbull. I've heard of some initiatives through some of the schools' PTAs, but I didn't actually know that it was a task force. So like I quickly looked up, I think you have a page on the Trumbull website, you have your own Facebook group. So I see a lot of the work that you guys have been doing. And, you know, I also do think that a lot of the mission that we have as Trumbull SEPTA does very much align to the EDIC task force. We are here to promote for all children receiving special education here in Trumbull, in order to support them, celebrate them, and make sure that they're being socially embraced. We've dug into some of the numbers. There's about 1,100 children that identify with special needs in Trumbull out of the 7,000 students that we service. So it's quite a significant amount, and every year I've seen that it's grown about 2 to 3%. So it looks like it's projected to continue to grow. So I started the Trumbull SEPTA Special Education PTA in November 2023 with 3 other parents that all have special needs children. This is our 3rd year operating. We are recognized under the Connecticut PTA, so we are a 501c3 organization. And the main reason that I started this was that my son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2 years old and has been receiving services ever since. He recently was also diagnosed with ADHD. I am from New York, Westchester, and then we moved to Connecticut, specifically Trumbull, because we saw that there were a lot of agencies here that would support my son and his needs. But when he started Middlebrook in kindergarten, he's part of the SRP program, Specialized Resource Program. We immediately noticed a lot of gaps, including just that there is an awareness on how to support this specific type of group. To the point that I would say as a mom, I was very upset and I was looking for ways on how to support my child. So I started doing research, never heard of SEPTA. I came across it. I attended some of the meetings at Fairfield. They have a huge SEPTA over there where they work with their community. Everyone comes together to provide services and resources, and to the point of even creating capitalization projects in each of the schools to see how to like even create classrooms that are more catered to special needs children. So I saw that and I thought, how do I bring that here to Trumbull? So, we're still in the grassroots stages. We created our social platforms. We have almost 300 followers by now. We're starting to partner with a lot of businesses and organizations here within Trumbull, because our vision is that we just want to create infrastructure in order to support our children from places such as, we have a lot of organizations reaching out to us, Anderson Center for Autism, even a tennis club that services specifically for any child with special needs. We went to YMCA here in Trumbull to advocate if they can open up programs for special needs children, and that now we have an avenue that we can, start to filter a lot of families to YMCA. We even had some webinars with financial advisors that are catered to helping us plan for our children's future. And then in this 3rd year, we're hoping to meet with our town's Board of Education, Dr. Semo, Dean Catalano, the Director of Special Education. We're hoping that they can help us to start to build their community with the schools, with the parents, with the teachers, because at the end of the day, we don't think this work can just be done alone by the parents. Like, I think the whole community has to come together, to build all those resources and all the things that I've mentioned. So I'll let Reggie and Sarah, speak more specifically on some of the initiatives that we've been working on.
Go, Jenny. So just to echo what Jenny said, thank you so much for having us. We're really pleased to speak to you all tonight. My name is Sarah Murray, and I live in the Tashua district. I know Shala from Tashua School Events, and I have 3 boys, the oldest of whom has special needs. And I got involved with the Trumbull SEPTA when I identified a problem statement that we have in Trumbull, which is that we have no adaptive special needs summer camp offering for our population of students. So I spoke with Jenny at length, and we decided that our group could come together and submit a proposal to Parks and Rec to create one. As Jenny said, the Fairfield community has had an adaptive summer camp for over 40 years. And so we feel like Trumbull is well equipped to do the same. So our first step was we put out a survey to our community, and we had over 100 respondents. And we learned a lot about what the community needs. So I'll just give a high-level summary of what we learned. We had an overwhelming interest level. The majority of respondents indicated that they're very interested in a special needs summer camp. The highest level of interest was from families with elementary age children, or ages 5 through 11. There's a significant demand also for families with preschoolers ages 3 to 5 and middle schoolers ages 11 to 14. Most children among the survey respondents would require mild to intermediate levels of support, but some do need strong levels. And then the top staffing needs for our camp would indicate paraprofessionals requested by over 90 families, light one-to-one support like a buddy that we see in some of the other special needs integrated programs in town, a program director with special needs experience, and then other staff such as behavioral therapists and nurse and medical staff. But overwhelmingly, we saw a need for a multidisciplinary staff for the camp. And so Jenny and I have been brainstorming ways to recruit those individuals to help us with our proposal. And then other priorities for the camp so far have been strong adaptive programming. We want this camp to really be one of substance for the children. We want them to have fun. We want them to learn skills. We want them to be proud of themselves. And we want them to do things that they never thought were possible. We need an indoor-outdoor facility for children who require air conditioning during heat waves like we've been experiencing this summer. A big priority for families was inclusion with neurotypical peers. My children have all gone to TechEC, which is an exemplary integrated special needs example of a school. We'd like to see that at our camp. And then also community building among families. So Jenny has done a great job starting SEPTA, but we're seeing a lot of need among special needs families to come together, to feel like they're part of a community, to include their children in that community, to create bonds with other families, and to share information and resources. Finally, the cost. Most of our respondents indicated that they would be willing to pay $200 to $300 per week. But of course, we'd be interested in grants, we'd be interested in private funding. Some families responded and said they were interested in opening, they would pay any price for this type of programming in town. So it was really quite moving, some of the comments that we received from families who have children who have never attended who have never attended summer camp or been able to do some of the adaptive activities that we see in other area towns. So Jenny and I have really been hard at work. Ultimately, we envision a summer camp that's not just a place to attend, but a place to belong. And that's really the driver behind what we're doing. Many of you have heard of Extended School Year, which is an academic program for special needs children, but ultimately we are looking for a recreational, fun summer camp that would also accommodate ESY. So for children who attend ESY, we would provide transportation from Frenchtown, which is where it's currently housed, to the special needs camp where they could finish their day with their friends having fun. And so we welcome feedback, we welcome ideas, we welcome connections that you may have in adaptive recreation. And most of all, we just thank you for listening.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Hope you all are doing good today. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this important conversation. My name is Reggie, and I'm a Trumbull resident and a mom of 2 special needs kids of ages 7 and 5. And my boys go to Middlebrooks Elementary School. I serve as a secretary with SEPTA Trumbull. So our focus is on building an inclusive and supportive environment for all the special needs kids in our community, along with their families and educators. So SEPTA has done a few initiatives over the past 2 years. We have collaborated with YMCA on a pilot program this summer to better understand how to offer inclusive programming in the fall and beyond. So we have partnered with Trumbull Library and donated some books that promote inclusion and special needs awareness. We distributed cupcakes to all special education staffs in Middlebrooks and Frenchtown Elementary Schools on National Special Education Day to show a token of appreciation. And we provided breakfast for all the paraeducators in Middlebrooks and Frenchtown Elementary Schools on Paraeducators Day. So at SEPTA, we strive to build meaningful partnerships and create inclusive spaces where all students feel seen, valued, and supported. So we are looking forward to being part of the panel and contribute to the ongoing efforts around equity and inclusion. Thank you again for the opportunity to be a part of this important conversation. Thank you all.
Thank you all. I have some comments and or questions, really. My comment is to thank you for sharing with us. But before I ask any questions that I might have, let me invite others if they have questions or comments to share them. All right, I'll start, and if others want to jump in, that would be great. My first question comes from a lack of understanding, and so I apologize if I'm a little bit ignorant here. But could you help me to understand? I'm a lawyer, so I'll use the wrong word, but jurisdiction. What is the definition or scope of special needs when we're talking about the work that SEPTA is trying to do? I don't know how big the tent is and how many different kinds of issues you're dealing with.
So honestly, I think that's why I was trying to state some of the statistics at the beginning, because what I came across, and I went through the Board of Education, the budget for the school district. I saw that Trumbull has a total of 7,000 students and 1,100 identify with special needs. That special needs is things from dyslexia, autism, ADHD. We have parents that are coming to us, even that are not just special education, but physically disabled or genetic diseases. So I think it's a wide range, and it just depends on who is coming to us. But the SEPTA is supposed to just promote to Trumbull and to the 11 different schools that we have. So I would say to the 1,100 students. So if we were, to offer our services, it would be to those 1,100 students here in Trumbull. But the need is massive. Yeah.
Thank you. That's helpful. I'll jump ahead on the agenda a little bit, in part because I feel remorse that I will not be able to attend the book club event that we have coming up on July 28th. But I have been reading the book. It's called Being Human by Judy Heumann. And she was a civil rights pioneer and advocate for people with disabilities, but particularly people with physical disabilities. And one of the things that she was, she had childhood polio, and so she was confined to a wheelchair. And one of the things that she found, and others who were working with her found, is the importance of allyship. And much of her book, I haven't finished it, is about the sit-ins that they engaged in the 70s, especially at the beginning of the Carter administration. And they were joined by people who supported their civil rights effort because of their own civil rights efforts. And so I think she said it was the Black Panthers who helped to provide them with some food during the sit-in, but they arranged for people to provide American Sign Language discussion for people in attendance who were hearing impaired, who joined the movement. And so it was the the difficult task of bringing all of these people together to fight for common cause that I think helped them to get through. And so I asked the question about how broadly SEPTA defines its mission or its jurisdiction to try to understand both how much support you have, but also something about the challenges that you have for trying to coordinate people with under one umbrella, but with very different needs. And so it sounds like you've got kind of got both.
Yeah, so I would say that it is very difficult. I sometimes meet with a lot of different parents just to even understand their child, because at the end of the day, I only know my own child, and I try to do my research, but in order for me to understand every family, it helps me to even just meet with all the different family, and I'm coming across an array of needs where sometimes I see parents talking about not just the mental or special education piece or the physical piece. It's also mental disabilities, like things like bipolar mixed with mental health mixed with other disabilities. So it's, like, how do we address all of that? And honestly, at the end of the day, is even just asking for volunteers so that we can accommodate all the special needs, and that SEPTA is not just talking about autism, but that we're speaking about other topics and other disabilities.
So as I imagine the challenges that you face, I can arrange on a spectrum the different kinds of receptions you might have, and let's leave aside some of the most positive ones. On the negative side, you can imagine people who are ignorant, as to some extent I am. You can imagine people who are budget conscious and so reluctant to help in ways that otherwise they might. And you can imagine people who are opposed for reasons of bias or otherwise. And I guess I'm curious to hear, if you don't mind sharing, a little bit about the different kinds of receptions you see, and the extent to which in the town of Trumbull you're seeing any of those three or other kinds of hurdles.
One, I'll ask Sarah or Reggie. Does anyone want to jump in, or?
Yeah, I can jump in. So as I mentioned, my children have gone through TechEC, which is an integrated special needs preschool, and I think has been life-changing for our family and for me as a mom, trying to understand the relationship between special needs children and typical children. And what I found in Trumbull is that the children are really the teachers in this instance, where you have role models, administrators, teachers who are pushing in the social emotional curriculum. But it's really the children who I found with my son, who I am always seeing included in different aspects of life at Tasha School. My child is mainstreamed at Tasha School. He's not in the SRP program. So for me personally, I've been really encouraged by the response that my child gets in the classroom and outside of the classroom, adults as well. But I think in this case, for me, I see investing in the children of Trumbull, all children of Trumbull, as a huge investment in the future, where you've got children who are being educated today in the social emotional curriculum to accept children who are different from themselves in varying degrees, to include them, to treat them as equals, to encourage them, to help them. And then the hope is that these grow up to be impactful, powerful adults who can do this as an adult. I can't speak for Reggie and for Jenny in this regard, but at least in the Tasha community and the Trumbull community at large, I've been really pleased to see my son accepted and included, and I'd love to give that opportunity to other children who may not have the same opportunity.
And thank you, Sarah. Reggie, do you have anything to add or?
Yeah, Jenny, you can carry on.
Okay. So I would say that Reggie and I, so we both have our sons in Middlebrook in the SRP program. And I would say that our experiences have been different, even from Sarah's experience, so our child, they're not mainstream. They're mostly in this SRP program, which is a smaller setting. They have less than 10 students in the classroom. They might be assigned a paraeducator to help them on a day-to-day basis. One of my main concerns when I started at Middlebrook was even the physical space of it, was that it was downstairs and separated from the rest of the children, where my child attended Tech Ec. He was on the first floor with everyone else. And my child, I've noticed, does thrive from being, he has a twin sister who's neurotypical, so she's not autistic. And I know that he's even gained a lot of educational, academically has thrived because of his sister. So I can see him really thriving and being in a gen ed setting, but because he's an SRP downstairs away from the mainstream area, I can see how that really doesn't help him socially, academically. So our goals for my son, and everyone administration knows that I want him to be included in the mainstream. I've even, and that's why I mentioned the Fairfield, that they have budgets where they're working on buildings and classrooms that are being catered to the special needs education. Whereas Trumbull, I see that if I ever ask that, I'm sure that would be like a 10-year project from now. So their entire community embraces special needs, where here it's like, honestly, in the beginning, I felt like I had to fight for civil rights for my son, just to be part of the mainstream education.
So I have one other selfish question. Before I turn to it, I'll once again see if anybody else has a different kind of a question.
I do have just two questions. And again, thank y'all for being here. It's really been an informative conversation for me as a parent and as an educator. So much of what you're sharing, though my children are neurotypical, so much of what you're sharing really resonates with me, and in my work as a teacher, and in how I try to help my children, navigate and be supportive of others. So thank you for being here. My first question is, I think I heard you say that SEPTA sort of operates under the Connecticut PTA. So I was wondering if you could share a little bit about how SEPTA interacts or intersects with the PTAs at each of the schools in
Yeah.
Trumbull. To tell us a little bit about that.
So right now, I think mainly because of the summer camp initiative, Sarah and I and some of the other SEPTA board members, we've been going to the different PTAs to really promote the summer camp initiative. And I would say, because we're in our third year, so really at the grassroots level, I really want to take time in this third year to really start building like the proper protocols. So I spoke to Dr. Semo and Mr. Dean Catalano, and I asked them that in this new year, if we can have monthly calls, or if not quarterly ones, where we have parents attending each of those meetings. One, I want to be able to market through each of the PTAs through the schools, because without them, I don't have a voice, if not through our Facebook group. So I don't really have a voice through each of the schools, even though they know that I'm supposed to be supporting each and every one of their schools. So trying to set up communications where we can promote all the services and resources that we're doing, trying to set up meetings. We do attend the PTAC meeting, the PTA council, but there I think only the presidents attend, and I'm not sure how that communication continues to flow to every other member and parents. So I want to start building more visibility with SEPTA because, you know, even out of 300 members, I don't think I've even, you know, that's only about 30% of the 1100. So I want everyone that has a special needs child to really know that we exist in this town and that we are a support system here. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. My other question is related to your 501c3 status. So my assumption is that you therefore get to do fundraising and soliciting funds to support your work. So can you talk a little bit about what you do in that regard?
Right now, we haven't done anything. Honestly, SEPTA has been funded mainly by myself, you know, on a yearly basis. But with the summer camp right now, you know, we've been researching all the different organizations that we can reach out to. So we're hoping to do a lot of grant writing in this third year, but Sarah and I were trying to see if we can start creating a steering committee so that, you know, we get more help in order to do like all the work that we need to do.
Yeah, and just to add to that, you're all aware that the elementary schools all, or I think most of them, if not all, do an annual or biannual fundraiser. I've been one of the leaders for TechX, a big night out, for the last 4 years, and we just recently completed construction on an adaptive playground, a brand new adaptive playground at TechX. We raised over $150,000. And that's a lot of hard work, but Jenny and I are trying to come up with ways to fundraise for SEPTA in a similar way, to set goals, right? One of which could be for scholarships or for funding for the summer camp. It may also be for a resource or for a program that a school really needs to help children like Jenny's child to, get that opportunity to integrate more with peers, because that's where, as I mentioned, my child has really been able to succeed through that opportunity, and we want to extend that to all children in Trumbull.
Thank you so much.
So we certainly would be happy to help you, I think, in any way that makes sense. And in particular, I don't know how many people watch these meetings or read our minutes, but I know that there are some. And so simply joining us helps to get the word out through perhaps a different channel than otherwise you would. And given the role we play in town, perhaps bring attention to what you're doing in a different way. But if in the future there are additional ways that we can help to amplify your efforts, let us know. I come to my selfish question. Sarah, I'm very interested to hear just a little bit about how you went about distributing the survey and what mechanisms you used to generate results. A little later on our agenda, we're going to talk about a survey that we hope to circulate, and I would be very happy to have any good advice.
So I created a Google form survey, anonymous, and we put out the link to the survey in our social networks, in the Trumbull Life of Moms Facebook group, which is very popular in town. We put it out to all of the schools. Jenny and I and Reggie went to different PTA meetings at the elementary schools before school closed for the year. We just basically tried to distribute it to any group that would have us. And so ultimately we were able, there's another Trumbull Moms group too, an offline Trumbull Moms group. It's a social club in town. We had one of their members put it out on their private email distribution list. So I would say the short answer to your question is mostly networking. But ultimately over, I would say maybe an 8-week period, 8 to 12-week period, we got over 106 respondents to be exact. And then we were able to
the survey
analyze
was
those
one that
results.
you designed yourselves?
Yeah, I mean, most of the questions were multiple choice, but then there were some open text answers. Was there anything that we didn't cover? Is there anything important to you about a summer camp that we haven't covered here? So we did get some of that feedback as well. yeah, I designed the questions and the responses, and we got a great response.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. Unless anybody's got additional questions, I'll move us on to the next agenda items. Any further discussion?
I
Okay.
just wanted to share that, John, I actually shared the survey on our edit page after I'm part of the Trumbull Center Facebook group, and so saw it and shared it on our page. So if you want to see the actual survey, it's available on our Facebook page as well.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Chala, for doing that.
Thank you. Jenny, Sarah, Reggie, thank you very much for joining us this evening. We're going to move on to the next agenda item, and although I guess I would invite you to hang out if you'd like, you are also welcome to run to other important things.
Thank you so much for having us here today. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
So
Thanks very much.
moving on to old business, diversity training update. Shala, you may be as well positioned as anybody to give us an update. I think, though, that the status is that we don't know, right? It got postponed and we're not aware of a new date.
That is the update. Yes. The original date, which I believe that goes back to maybe May, ended up not working, and some alternatives were shared, but it's been I think at this point, I think it sits with Tom McCarthy to be able to kind of share back with us.
Okay, I suspect that we are just in the difficulty of trying to do something with a number of busy people in the summer, but we can keep at it. I have every expectation that within some reasonable period of time, which may be defined in months rather than days or weeks, we'll get this done, and we'll keep at it.
Yeah, I will just share that the windows that the facilitators shared have closed as of yesterday and will be closing next week. So we may need to sort of go back to facilitators with a new set of possible dates to then try to have Tom work with the cabinet to figure something out.
I think that's right. Any further discussion on this one? Okay, I'll move on. Book club, as I alluded to earlier, because I couldn't help myself, Being Human is scheduled for July 28th at 6 p.m. I think it's a great choice. I'm enjoying reading the book. Unfortunately, I won't be able to attend the event because of a work conflict that evening. But I hope that folks will be able to participate. We've also got So You Want to Talk About Race for October 6th at 6 p.m. I haven't started reading that book, but it's sitting on my desk. And we talked last time about a possible selection on Judaism or anti-Semitism. There was a suggestion that was made in correspondence that we received. I think it's Difficult Conversations with a Jew, and we had tabled until this month what to do. We had concluded last month that we would not upset our schedule to rush that onto the calendar. And I wanted to give folks a chance to think about that book. I will say that I've had some conversations about that book, and I'm a little bit concerned about whether that book is a great choice. I haven't read it myself, but I gather that the author's views might be insufficiently nuanced in some ways, and in particular, the author may conflate criticism of Israel with anti-Semitism. Those are two distinct things. There are lots of reasons to think about criticizing Israel these days. When it gets to anti-Semitism, I think when you criticize Israel for doing things that you wouldn't criticize a different country for, or when you blame Jews generally, or Jews in America for things that are happening in Israel. But to conflate any criticism of the Israeli government with anti-Semitism is too simplistic. And so, although I haven't read the book, I'm a little bit concerned from what I've heard. I don't know if folks have a different view, and frankly, that doesn't mean that you can't read the book and have a good discussion and talk about the things that I was just talking about. So I wanted to invite folks to share their thoughts about whether to add a book on this subject to our program, and whether it should be this one. And frankly, for that matter, whether we even need to figure it out in July, given that we've got a different book we're doing in July and another one that's lined up for October.
I think it's definitely something that we should consider in terms of sort of like how we've approached the different books that we have read in book club. You know, we've tried to cover different perspectives, right, which is really important. And so I think that a text related to Judaism or anti-Semitism would definitely be appropriate at some point. I've not read the Uncomfortable Conversations with a Jew book myself. And I would just offer that, you know, Kathleen, the librarian who we've been coordinating with, has been really helpful about an initial book list that she had shared with us. And so I wonder if we might not let her know that we are considering a book related to this identity marker, and see if she has recommendations for us that we might choose from, in addition to considering the one that was recommended to us last time.
That's a great suggestion. David, did you want to?
Yeah, Jonathan, are you saying that you specifically want to, your preference is to keep those two things separate in whatever book we choose to read as a group, or are you, or is that or question is, or is that exactly the reason to read it, because it does exactly what you just suggested?
I was raising the question whether, if we choose a book to address this issue, this is the right book or not, and arguments can be made for and against. The fact that well, I shouldn't say it, the possibility, because I haven't read it, that the author has this simplistic approach is not necessarily a reason not to read the book. It can still lead to good conversations. And so I wasn't so much making a recommendation as trying to spark a conversation.
Right.
But I think Kathleen's suggestion to ask, I'm sorry, Shala's suggestion to ask Kathleen
is a good one.
Is a good one.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. I'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the townwide survey. I think we didn't talk about it last month. I've lost a little bit of the thread, but in any event, Rick and Shala have done some substantial work on creating a product that I think is once again ready for our discussion. I took some liberties with it in the last 48 hours, and I think that the easiest thing to do might be to share my screen and allow us to have a chance to discuss the current working draft and see if we can discuss what the next steps are in light of that. So if you'll bear with me, I think. Okay. Do folks see the survey? Excellent. So it's 4 pages. I'll kind of scroll through slowly, and we can stop at any point for any discussion. The first page is a please tell us about yourself page. It is, by the way, by my rearranging, although I think consistent with conversation we had as a group, I have stripped out from this page a request for name and address, and we'll come back to that. My hope is that we'll get people to answer the survey questions and not drive people away who want to be anonymous by asking them right at the bat, what's your name? I think if you ask what's your name and someone doesn't want to share their name, you don't get answers. So there are some markers here for various relevant traits. What's your primary language? What gender do you most identify with? Do you identify as LGBTQ plus? Age brackets. If you identify as a member of any religious group, which one? If you identify with a race or ethnicity, and people may identify with multiple. I don't suppose that there are too many people who identify with multiple religions, although there are some. Which ones? Do you identify as a person with a disability? In light of the conversation we were having earlier, this is something that is particularly salient. Educational buckets. Actually, we might want to flesh that out. If we have an age bracket that goes 18 and below or below 18, there are going to be people with the highest level of education that is not yet high school diploma. And so we probably ought to add a box for still in school or some other similar descriptor. Is this spelled wrong?
What?
Well, we can fix it. This one is an interesting one from my perspective. I worry a little bit about the fact that, if 4 people in the same household fill out the survey, you get 4 answers that are all about the same one person, and you're not getting meaningful data. On the other hand, I'd hate to miss an opportunity to find out about people that have needs because we only got one response from a household that has people in it with needs. So I guess I would welcome thoughts on whether this is framed the right way. And
Jonathan, what
frankly,
if you split that? What if you split that into 2 questions? The first one being, do you? The second one being any other member of your household.
I think that's a good suggestion, David. That solves my problem, at least to some extent. It mitigates my concern. And then lastly, what is your employment status? I'll pause there. Any other comments or thoughts on this page? Anything that's missing? Anything that and by the way, this is not a speak now or hold your peace thing, but we're together. So if there are thoughts, I'll pause for them. All right. When we're done going through this, let's talk a little bit about process. I want to give people a chance to think about this and not just be reacting to a scrolling screen. The next set of survey questions, I guess I'll call them, ask people to respond to prompts and to express on a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is not at all true and 5 is very true, their assessment of the accuracy of the statement. I'd welcome improvements on how to frame that request, but that's what we've got right now. And so the specific statements on which we are seeking responses are, and I mean, everybody can read, but I'll do it anyway. Our community has a diverse population. By the way, we've not defined community. I think we mean Trumbull, but I'll invite people to share whether they think we want to define community more specifically or not. Our community promotes an inclusive environment regardless of characteristics such as sexual orientation and identity, race and ethnicity, age, nationality, and disability status. This should probably say national origin, I think, as opposed to nationality. I don't know if Samantha, you want to comment?
Yeah, and to the question above about how this section is framed, one of the things you could consider is whether than having someone respond to the accuracy of the statement, you can ask them to respond to the extent to which they agree or disagree with the statement.
Okay, I won't wordsmith it right now, but I appreciate the suggestion. And folks think this should nationality versus national origin. I think it should be national origin, since we're interested in people who will say, well, I'm an American, darn it, but have a national origin that might be different. All right. Yeah. Our decisions, our community's decision-making processes value diverse perspectives. Our community provides resources to support community engagement and decision-making processes. Our community treats everyone fairly. I feel comfortable being my authentic self in this community. I feel comfortable discussing diversity and inclusion issues with other members of my community. I feel welcome and included in this community. Anything leap out at anybody as stated wrong, shouldn't be included, or anything missing?
I'm wrestling with what you pointed out about the word community and whether we actually mean town. You know, because you may get a different response depending on the choice of words.
Yeah, I was thinking that we might say our community in the town of Trumbull. Or the town of Trumbull community blank.
Yeah, okay. Others thoughts on that particular?
I would also just say, like, if we're not specifying it in that way, I think we do need to likely define community in some way. Because as I look at these questions, my answer is going to vary if I'm thinking about my neighborhood community, a group of Black moms who are a community here versus the town at large. And so I think we do want to be as specific as possible and or define what we mean, like what we want people to take into account as they think about community.
Yeah, I agree. My reaction is that community is too vague and open to too much interpretation. So we can play with that. The next group are short answer questions. I think that, as we've discussed, having too many of those turns people off, but having a few is appropriate. And so the ones that are here: have you experienced or witnessed bias or discrimination in Trumbull in the last 3 years? If yes, please describe. I limited this to experienced or witnessed as opposed to heard of, and to the last 3 years. It's not that I think that discrimination 6 years ago is not relevant to us, but I think that we get more meaningful answers if we focus people on the current town of Trumbull and not what someone might say about the 1980s. Based on your experience, again, kind of trying to avoid rumor, do you feel that there are any areas of discrimination or prejudice in our community on which the Edit Committee should focus its efforts? So seeking a little help for us. And what specific actions do you believe could improve our community's diversity and inclusivity? I'm sorry, and then there's one more. Do you have any other comments or suggestions regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion in our community? Again, subject to the wordsmithing on the word community. Anything that folks think we should omit, we should add, or we should do differently than what we have here.
I'm noticing that in number 1, so far we have bias or discrimination, but that in question 2 we have discrimination or prejudice. And so I think it makes sense that we're consistent in using the same words. And so I would offer bias, prejudice, or discrimination in those 2 questions.
Okay, I agree with that. Any other comments, thoughts?
Do you think that, just question, do you think any of the survey results could lead to follow-up communication being required?
So
if so, I wonder if we want to leave a blank line for email address or something if they're comfortable including that.
So I moved to the end, the opportunity for people to provide contact information. What was on the form and I just cut and pasted was name and address, but email address is a good suggestion, David. I think we should include that. I don't even know if we need addresses at this point. Maybe just
True.
name an email.
Agreed.
And I deliberately added, if comfortable doing so. I think I want to invite people to decline, but my hope is that some will feel comfortable doing so. I think, as much as I'd like to believe that there's no stigma associated with any of these answers, people who say I identify as LGBTQ plus, or I identify as Jewish, or I identify as a certain ethnicity may not want to have their name and address. David.
I wonder whether we want to just add a little note at the end where basically asking for consent to contact them if they would be interested.
Okay.
So,
Shala?
Yeah, I was going to suggest exactly what David just said. In my experience with surveys like this, having an option for if you would be open to someone following up with you, kind of like check here or whatever, because I do think that based on what we see, particularly in the open-ended responses, there might be some additional listening that we want to engage in to further help our efforts. And so I would definitely suggest that. And then just to go back to the language consistency, similarly in 3 and 4, 4 says diversity, equity, and inclusion, and 3 says diversity and inclusion. So I just think we want to make sure we're using all 3 of those words in both of those questions.
Fair enough. Okay. So thanks for taking a little bit of time to run through this. I recognize that it's a little bit unfair to ask people in a meeting like this, under conditions like these, to be really fully thoughtful. And so what I propose to do is to make some further revisions trying to reflect the discussion we've had, and then circulate the written document to people in advance of our August meeting, with the hope that we'll put this on the agenda again for August and try to finalize. At the same time, my question is, do we think we're close enough to, in parallel, start to engage with the administration about the fact that we've got this brilliant survey idea and we'd love to talk to them about distribution and their views on content in case they have any, or should we wait until we're one step further along? Shala?
Personally, I think we're close enough, and I also think that even if we weren't close enough, there's no we have a product now that at least is a starting point, and we've had the idea for a long time. And so even if we are still working towards final product, to begin a conversation about how it can be disseminated, I think is an important step to take now.
Okay. Does anybody disagree with that? Okay. So in conjunction with circulating the next draft to the committee, I'll also try to engage with the town and see where we go. Any further comments? Any further discussion on this evening? Okay. I'll stop sharing then and go back to our agenda. Next item on the agenda is new business. There's nothing on the agenda under new business, but is there any new business that we should discuss? Okay. Shala.
I'm not sure if this is new business, because it actually is something that we talked about several months ago, but I wanted to resurface. We had a conversation a while back about the possibility of town department heads joining our meetings to be able to just share the work that they've been doing connected to equity, diversity, inclusion. Rena Baclar's attendance at our meetings, I think it was back in the fall, was for me a wonderful example of what that could look like. And I think we talked about it as a possibility, but I don't know if we sort of made any further steps in that regard. But I wanted to bring it back up because I do think it could be a wonderful way to extend just opportunities to collaborate and further support the work that we want to do as a committee.
We have in the past had Chief Lombardo, Dr. Semmel, First Select Woman Tesoro joined us for one of our meetings. I can't now remember if there was anybody else. There might have been, in addition to Rena Bacalar. But yeah, we can certainly do that. Do you have somebody in mind? Whether it's to go back to the well and invite somebody who's been with us in the past, or invite somebody new.
I mean, I do have one like specific thought, which I think we attempted, but we're never able to get anywhere on. But more broadly, I actually think that I'm not seeing this as like a one-off invitation. For me, I feel like I don't know, twice a year, once a year, but like a rotating schedule of folks coming to sit with us to talk about how they've advanced the work of equity, diversity, and inclusion in their department within the last 12 months. But specifically, I would love to sit with the folks at Park and Rec, and I think maybe we didn't ask the right people, but like as an example, especially thinking about Sarah and Reggie and Jenny's presentation to us tonight, I was at Beach's Pool the other day and see that there is a playground communication board that is on the building. And that's wonderful. And there's a little blurb about, the importance of, not everyone in our community is verbal. And so this is a way that people who are nonverbal can communicate. And so based on what I saw, I understand that to be the work of the Park and Rec department. And it's wonderful, right? And that's like a very clear tactic that they have taken to support equity, diversity, and inclusion in Trumbull. They have adaptive swim hours at the pool. And so it seems like they're doing great work. And so I think them coming to just share with us would be wonderful. And there are probably things that they're doing that we don't know about. But to me, that's like the invitation is come sit with this committee and talk to us about how you've advanced the work of equity, diversity, inclusion in the last 12 months, for example.
So the objective of having a sort of standing periodic invitation for folks across all of these departments is a bigger idea, a more difficult to accomplish, I think, idea than to say to Parks and Rec, hey, we'd love, it may not be, Parks and Rec may be hard, but to just say to Parks and Rec, hey, would you come to our August meeting? Let's do this. I think having Parks and Rec be invited is a very good idea. Let me try to do that and see what reaction we get. And let's also spend the next month thinking about the bigger plan that you've shared, and we can come back and discuss that in August on our agenda and go from there, unless folks have a adverse reaction to that suggestion.
I'm okay with that. I would just say that I actually could also do a Park and Rec outreach if you'd like. I had a conversation with Noreen, who is the director of I don't know, she oversees camp. That's the way I've interacted with her, and like basketball, which I've coached. And so I had a little bit of a conversation with her a while back. And so I can reach out to her to see if she would be willing to come and share with us.
All yours. Thank you. So any other items for discussion this evening? Okay. Sarah, thanks for sticking with us through the bitter end. Samantha, I hope we have excited you and not scared you away. Look forward to seeing you in August. And I'll invite a motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
All right. I heard David come in first. So Shala gets the second. This one gets no discussion. All in favor? All right. As it always does, carries unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.